All right, in this lesson right here, what we're going to be doing is a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of cleanup, and we're going to add the neck in. So, Zach, go ahead and make that thing look as close to that image as you possibly can.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do here, we're just start out. I guess the first thing we need to do is just kind of reference our image planes a little bit. I'm going to zoom out a little. We'll go back to transparency. And as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and turn on our NURM surfaces again. And we can see here on our with our edge faces on that things are lining up pretty well. Some things are a little off. Of course, our drawing is also not perfectly symmetrical. We kind of need to keep that in mind.
True. But I can see we're on the side of the head. It's a little overshot.
Right.
The cheeks are a little thin.
Couple of things that just aren't kind of lining up, but that's fine. We can go ahead and like it in this view. We can try to sort some of these problems out at least from this perspective.
Right. And of course, guys out there right now, he's not actually trying to make the low-res cage line up. Remember, he's now looking at the high-res geometry, making it line up.
Absolutely. We're completely done with making the low-res cage conform. Now we're pretty much finished with the hardest parts of this model. We're at the end of modeling, so now we want to make our high-res model, what the viewer's going to see, line up as best we can.
Exactly.
Okay, so we'll pull this guy in. That looks pretty good right there. And really, a lot of this is just kind of intuitive. You know, it's a lot of this is going to come with practice. You just play with it for a while, and it kind of starts to make sense. So we'll kind of pull this in. That should round it out up top. Now, once again, what I'm doing here is you'll notice it's not lining up on this side. At some point, we had to do kind of what we did when we set up the image planes. We had to assume that one side of this is right, and that the symmetry modifier is going to take care of the problems on the other side.
Yeah, that's right.
So really, in this perspective, that is going to just about clean up all of our problems, except for kind of here at the edge, we kind of need to pull this out.
Yeah, that's starting to look pretty good, straight on.
Maybe if I zoom in down here in the chin, we could do a little bit down here.
Not much, because you got to grab that guy
kind of grab this guy here. Kind of thicken that up just a little. I mean, really, tweaking is one of those things you'll find you could end up doing all day if you wanted to.
Easily.
And then, and really, at some point in the day, you're going to stop and go, wow, it looks great, and you're just going to have to make yourself walk away, or you could really tweak a model for the rest of your life. So let's go into perspective, and let's go ahead and shade this guy back in, have a look at it. That's already looking much better.
What a difference.
Absolutely. So I do notice one little thing here. In the drawings, and I can just kind of pull him out off to the side, we'll notice he's got this really heavy ridge that continues right in between his eyes. And here we don't really have that. So one of the things we're going to need to do is actually do a little bit more modeling right here at the nose, and just this will kind of be part of our cleaning up just to make this appear to work just right.
Okay.
So I'm going to switch off my NURM subdivision just to see how this is looking as far as the low resolution cage.
Okay.
I'm going to hit F4. I mean, I can turn on F4 to turn on my my edge faces again. But really, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my cut tool back out, and it's actually up. And we'll start from this vertex. And for now, just kind of as a trial, I'm just going to go ahead and make a cut to pretty much right here. And once again, it's just like before. I'm going to lay down a cut and then actually worry about positioning it properly in another view. So go ahead, we'll make this completely transparent so you can see like where we were and what we've done. We'll zoom in. Let's go ahead, just to make things a little easier, we'll go ahead and select the vertex we need. And as you can see, he needs to kind of come up just a little bit. Now, a funny thing has just happened, really, that we may not be aware of yet. When we just added all of this new detail, our low-res cage, our high-resolution NURM surface has also changed, and sometimes those changes could end up being problems. So we need to go ahead and kind of check and make sure that the high-res is still looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and go to full screen here. We'll shade him back in. And you'll notice what I did kind of added a little more of a point here. You'll notice there's a little more of a ridge along here. That's all right. We should be able to grab this and kind of spread this out a little bit.
Very nice. And I really like the indentation you gave it right up under there. Right in front of the eye, giving that goggle look, kind of more like the image.
Exactly. It's already starting to look better than it did, but we can actually make it look better than it does now. We can go ahead and grab this vertex here, pull it up just a little bit, and let me go ahead and we'll kind of pan around to the side here. Now, usually I don't use my image planes in a perspective view, but this is just kind of lining up, and we can just kind of use it as a side reference just to make sure. We'll just pull this back just a little bit, pan around and have a look at it, and really our indentation is really starting to come out now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Grab this guy and kind of pull him up. That should sharpen it up a little bit. And if I want, I can just kind of tug it out a little bit. Not too much. We don't want the... In fact, that really might have been too much because that started to make
we
this
don't want it to look
ridge.
like a bird beak.
Absolutely. But again, we can just get to fix any problems we might have like that. We can just take this vertex here that we've created, spread it out, and also pull it up, and that'll round out this snout area. And actually, you know, I think I'm going to be satisfied with that as the indentation. So, his snout is officially tweaked in. I mean, it's looking very good.
I'm happy with it. The
Okay.
The tweaks.
The tweaks.
The cheeks.
The cheeks here. Well, we could do a little bit of work with the cheeks. See, one of the things about these cheeks is we don't really have an honest to goodness direct reference with how these are going to look.
Right.
Really, all we're basing this off is shading. And in the end, we might want to just kind of go ahead and decide. Maybe it's time we want the cheeks to be have a little more definition as far as this goes. But, you know, there's something I'd like to take a second to do before I go too much further. At this point, we're doing a lot of tweaking in the perspective view. Really, in the end, we're almost completely done with our image planes.
Right.
And just something I do a lot when I'm modeling, really just when I'm doing my post modeling, is I take my my material that I'm using and I give it a little bit of specularity.
Okay.
Just because that really brings out a lot of the highlights. The highlights that show up allow you to see the curvature.
And something else to add to that, you may want to tighten up that specularity as well, because that will actually bring things out even better.
Absolutely. We'll just kind of make this a little more glossy.
There you go.
And see, really what this is going to do is it'll show us all of the definition within our shape. We can see right now that we can see where all of our ridges are, all of our creases are now shown very well. And really, the next time you do a model like this, you might want to do this earlier on. I just usually
really at this point it's just been using our reference images all the way up to this point where we've just been lining things up. Now you're getting to the point where you're actually tweaking it, trying to get the look in there exactly the way you want it. And at this point, I think you've done good. At this point, now the material may become a little bit, more important of an issue. In fact, I'd probably make the glossiness just a little bit tighter as well. But that's just me.
Well, no, but I mean, since you are the student, chuckle, we'll help you out a little bit. We'll make this a little tighter.
That's pretty good. We just don't want
Here
to
at 3D Buzz, we're always about the students.
Oh, thank you.
Chuckle. And actually, all this is starting to look pretty good. Just kind of eyeballing this, looking for little problems. That you see, bringing out these highlights really allows you to see where there might be potential problems in the model. And
remember, like I said earlier in these lessons, if we get this thing, or Mr. Zach gets this thing looking really good with just an iteration set to 2, turning it up to 3 then just makes it all that much nicer.
Absolutely. So actually what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to start cleaning up like the underside of his head, start cleaning up maybe the back of his head a little bit. I don't want to mess with things too much, but I do kind of want to experiment, make sure everything's working well. You'll notice I've got like 3 vertices here. Now I'm going to try something that I might end up undoing.
Well, that's pretty common with modeling.
But I'm going to take these verts here, and I don't think that I need all these vertices so close together to be separate vertices. I'm going to try to collapse them. But the reason I'm only doing this as a potential thing I might undo is that I really like the curvature that I've got in this chin. And when I collapse these vertices, I might lose that. So really I'm just kind of checking this out, seeing if this is going to work for me. Collapse it, see, there's what happens right there. We go right back to a point, we're going to undo that, and we'll just leave that exactly how it is for now.
Okay.
But I am going to kind of go back through here, and some of these verts back here that are hidden, we don't need this much detail for one little spot back here. We can go ahead and collapse these guys. The neck is pretty much going to be starting right here in this general area anyhow.
But a person may wonder, what about the seam that you just created when you went through and did that?
Well, that seam there, it's really not,
because
once again.
Follow that all the way out to the chin and watch what happens.
Actually, wow, thanks for letting me know about that. I didn't even see that yet. So, like I said, we're just kind of experimenting. We'll go ahead and just leave those guys pretty much like they are for now. You'll find this happens a lot when you're modeling. You'll have like a perfect setting, which is you might want to change it, and then when you change it, you might want to just say, forget
Absolutely.
it, leave it.
It's good that they see this because that's very common in the world of modeling.
Actually, it happens with almost every model I've made. So I'm going to go ahead and take some of these vertices. You notice we got these guys in a straight line, and what that's doing is really kind of squaring out our head. I'm going to pull some of these forward, maybe kind of round this out just a little more. Not really changing the outer edge shape of our head, just kind of rounding it out from here. Now, what I'm going to do real quick, we don't really need our image planes anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that we're done with these guys.
Object mode.
I'm going to switch back to object mode. And I'm going to select these guys, and I'm not going to delete them because, who knows, something might happen later on and I might actually want them, but I will go ahead and hide them.
Okay.
And I'll hit 1 to go back into, actually, we'll click on Editable Poly and then go into Vertex Subobject Mode.
Okay.
And really, all I'm doing right now is just moving vertices around to kind of take out. I mean, you noticed a second ago, I have these funny ridges going on back here. A lot of stuff going on because of the way that I modeled the face. And every now and then when I'm modeling the face, I might have been using a marquee select and therefore moving around vertices at the back of the head.
Right.
So, I mean, there could be a few problems back here that I need to patch up, but really it shouldn't be anything that, should be, like, really detrimental. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball these guys, kind of round some stuff out, trying to avoid major creases from happening. It looks like, actually, I might have a little bit too much detail here, maybe some stuff that I could get rid of.
Okay.
So once again, this is kind of experimentational because a lot of times it's hard to tell exactly what's going to happen to your high-res model once you do this kind of stuff. But I'm going to try to see what happens if I just kind of collapse these two vertices. That already seemed to help us out a little bit, but we've also got these two guys here that look a little bit redundant. Let's go ahead and collapse them, and that's already rounding our shape out nicely. We can go ahead and take this one new vertex we've made and pull it forward.
There you go.
And maybe take this new guy back here that we just made and maybe move him just a tad forward, just kind of round that out a little bit. And we got a little bit of a point back here that we've generated. A couple of ways we can actually go about fixing this. One is I can just hit 2 and select just this edge.
And remove it.
And hit the remove tool, and that'll get rid of it. And now I can hit 1, go back to my vertex here,
pull that one back
and then
a little.
pull it back, and that should round the head out. And actually, I'm going to call that right there.
Yeah, it looks good.
That looks very good. Nice and rounded. Look like he's got a pretty stout skull about him.
No, I'm not saying to do it. I'm just wanting to point out with me one of the things additional that I would probably do is add another cut. In fact, I'm going to reach all the way over here in front of Zach, but I don't like having areas on a model with this much empty space without having something in between it. So I would probably end up running with one somewhere. I would end up having to play with it a couple of times, but I would be cutting all the way up along here, up to the top, and then getting that into the mix of things.
Absolutely, and I can see where you would do that. It's just in this case, for this particular model, I mean, we're not going to be doing any ears or anything, and I think right now our high-res NURM surface is looking so good that I'd be almost afraid to cut into it now.
No, like I said, I'm not asking you to. I'm just
saying,
I
know.
I'm just saying that I don't like leaving large areas, large gaps like that.
Absolutely. So really, at this point, we're pretty much ready to go ahead and cut in a bit of a neck here.
All right, well, give me a neck.
So let's go back outside here, and now I'm going to need my image planes again because the neck's actually shown there. We could go ahead and guess, but, we're trying to do everything nice and professional here.
Okay, when you bring the image planes back, double check to make sure you didn't move the front one just a tad.
I think I did.
I think so, too.
But that's all right. That's not going to be any big deal. We'll go ahead and unhide all.
You zeroed them up.
That's right. And so, he did get moved just a little bit. We can just zero him back. Actually, I had my head selected right there. We'll just grab these guys and check him. He's just fine. And this guy we actually have to select from behind because of his normals. And yeah, he was moved just a tiny bit.
There you go.
There we go. And so really, I'm going to be marking off where since we're tweaking, really look, this eyebrow doesn't really line up.
That's looking a little rough.
But, we can fix that pretty easily. We can just go in here and click this guy, and under modifier list, we can go to our vertex subobject mode. Let me go ahead and just kind of full screen this guy, because really this is a really good example to show one of the things about tweaking is really you need to get around and check everything from every possible angle. Look for problems. Be your own critic. let's just go ahead and we'll drag this guy forward. Maybe drag this guy here up a little bit. Grab this guy, bring him way out. That's already starting to look better. Maybe we'll pull him up a little more.
That's it. It looks like in perspective view.
All right. Back out here. We'll go back to our perspective view. Pan around.
A little bit pronounced. I mean,
a little bit pronounced, but maybe it's not that pronounced in the drawing. But once again, we can kind of fix that by pulling this down a little bit. That'll smooth that out a little bit. We can go into take this vertex here on the edge. Not that particular one. We actually want this guy, and we can move him on Z and X, and just kind of smooth that out a little bit.
Okay.
But as you can see now from the side, our alien is actually taking on the actual shape that we were looking for.
Exactly.
Which is, I mean, that's good. Really, we want to assume that these image planes were given to us with a purpose, right?
That's right. All right, now let's go ahead and get that neck into place.
Absolutely. So let me go ahead and go to a side view so we can see pretty much where we're going to be locating this thing. And actually, I've got a nice set of vertices that pretty much have the start of the neck and the back of the neck.
Yeah.
Which is going to be convenient for me because now that allows me to just pretty much cut from one vertex to the other. But just to keep things straight in my head, I'll go ahead and select him in this view, and that will mark for me in my perspective view which one I'm looking at. So I'll be cutting from basically this vertex back to this guy. Now I got a lot of vertices right here that are together, and you noticed earlier when we tried to collapse those guys, it really deformed our chin. So we're going to leave those guys as they are, and we're going to actually cut, as I try not to pan around too much. We've already got a line that goes from here out to here and back. So really, we've got a lot of the work done for us.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's just go ahead. I'm going to try something out here. I'm going to try to make a cut just from here to here. And I'm going to zoom way in here. And I'm going to hit 4 to grab polygons. I'm going to start grabbing the polygons that we're going to need to extrude this neck out and just see what comes out here.
Okay.
I mean, in the end, if it really starts to look terrible, we can start manipulating a few verts and rounding stuff out. But we got to start somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and use my extrude tool. And this one, I'll go ahead and do this one by hand. Go ahead and pull that out. And really, right off the bat, that's not looking too terrible. We got a little bit of a split here we're going to have to deal with, and it looks like that split ran clear to the chin.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go ahead and back out and see what really the cause of that was. The cause of that is the multiple vertices we have in here. Let me see if I can find a way around this. Actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. And really, it's kind of a good thing to show this because we know that those vertices we have on the underside of that chin are really keeping everything nice and straight and nice and smooth.
Right.
We showed earlier when we tried to get rid of them that the thing really started to deform. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bypass these vertices up here and make another cut that just goes around them.
Actually, let me give you some of my thoughts.
Sure.
Take those ones up at the chin and collapse them.
All right. These guys up here?
Yep.
All right. Let's do it. Do-do-do. All right, with those guys selected, I'm just going to scroll down, get my collapse tool.
Okay, so it gives us a nice sharp edge.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now, what kind of weighting can we get when we adjust the weighting on that there?
Let's give it a shot. We already got our weights selected. That's up here under Edit Vertices.
All right, no, pull it back down.
I'm pulling it back down. Let's reset it at 1 real quick, and I'll just kind of move on from there.
Pull some of the weight off of it. There you go.
All
now,
right.
what other vertices do we have out near it? Okay,
Actually, let me blow my screen up here so we can really see what's going on. This is a really interesting thing to bring up because weighting is a very powerful thing to be using with NURM surfaces.
Absolutely. Now, go ahead and just leave it the way it is at the moment.
Okay.
Now, go back to those down there and collapse those.
All right.
What we want to do is go ahead and simplify this as much as possible.
I agree with you.
Okay, so that's going to get that off. Now, there's a couple of ways we could go about handling the chin right there.
Well, one of the problems is that when we collapse those guys, they moved away from 0, so now they're outside of our seam threshold. We can fix that by zeroing them out in X once again.
And actually,
that already helped us out a great
you
deal.
could probably go in there and just mess with the weighting just a little bit more and through upping the iterations. Then just at the end, it'll probably just
Yeah, but
round on up.
Buzz, I thought I remembered you saying that you wanted this to look good at 2 iterations, and actually, I think I got an idea that could really help us do
All
that.
right.
So I'm just gonna try it once
Little
again.
chamfering.
Let's grab this vertex here and let's try chamfering it. Chamfer, and look at that.
That's very nice.
Puts the chin right back where it was.
Or pretty close.
We're
anyway.
pretty close. And
He
really, at this point, we could go back and use our image planes and adjust and get it pretty much right back where it was to begin with.
Exactly.
And it's really not all that far off.
Actually, yeah, if you want to just tweak a little bit in the perspective view just to kind of
Sure.
get the shape just a little
Absolutely.
bit better.
Let's go ahead and get my move tool out, and we can just kind of pull this one vertex maybe back a little
Yeah,
bit so he doesn't
absolutely.
kind of...
There you go.
He doesn't have a cleft in his chin.
And that about did it right there.
Yeah, that
Grab
looks...
the one up underneath, push it up just a tad.
It's a little sharp in that perspective. That's okay.
And again, when you run into an area that's sharp, go in there and adjust the weighting on it just a little bit.
Absolutely. So let's go in here and let's try that.
Now rotate back up underneath it so that we can see what's going on. Find the worst angle that you could possibly view it from.
Well, actually, if we're trying to get the sharpness like in here, this might be a good angle to try it.
Okay, I just didn't realize what sharpness you were looking at. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. There's probably several different ones we can play with. I'll move this guy back. Just kind of round it out a little bit from this side view. Because, we're not really modeling by our image planes anymore, but at the same time, we can see the image plane back there. We can use it kind of as a light reference right now. Actually, I'm kind of liking the way that looks from there. Now, from this side, we got a little bit of sharpness from head-on.
Okay.
Let me start by moving this guy down. That'll bring this curvature nice and smooth. Kind of pull this out a little bit. And we still got a little bit of a cleft in his chin going on just a tad. We can pull this back.
Just about got it.
And maybe pull this up just a little bit. And this is another place where the highlights from the lights are really going to help us out because they're going to allow us to see if there really is two bumps there. It looks like there still is maybe just a microscopic
tad,
bit.
At the moment, go ahead and move on from the chin. I
Sure.
think you've got that closer.
I think-
and I'm a lot happier because I don't like personally having so many edges that are so bunched together doing what they were doing a minute ago. Now
I completely agree.
Gives you something much better to work with back in the neck area, and you're going to see that it's going to work out a whole lot better when you go to extrude now.
Let's go ahead and grab these guys, and now I'm going to get my extrude tool out, and we'll just kind of do this by hand.
Okay.
And actually, what
what you just ran into is an excellent thing that needs
Absolutely.
to be pointed out. Do you know what it is?
Then I've got an extra edge in there,
Extra edge?
or an extra polygon actually
Okay.
between those guys.
You got it.
So we'll just cancel that out. We'll go in there and we'll just kind of have a look and really see what's going on here.
Go ahead and extrude again.
Okay. Never mind. I'm with you. I'm sorry.
What everybody doesn't realize is, as always, it's about 2 o'clock in the morning right now.
What do you mean, as always? Okay, we'll go ahead. We'll just say okay like this, and we'll leave this extrusion pretty much like it is.
And it looks
But
so horrible. But
It looks horrible, but it's about not to. I'm going to turn off show end results,
Now he's talking.
and now I'm going to go into polygon subobject mode, which
you were just in.
it already was, which is perfectly all right for this time of the morning. I'm going to select my polygons, and we'll just grab these 2 polygons
Now
inside
you're
here.
rocking.
I'm going to delete these guys. I do want to kill the isolated verts. I don't need anything in there. Now we'll turn end result back on. Now once again, we got a little bit of a seam here, but that's probably because these guys are outside of our threshold. Actually, it's definitely because they're outside of our
We
threshold.
moved off of 0, so we need to...
We'll just kind of grab these guys and we'll pull them up. You select the right ones and it works a lot
Yeah,
better.
I don't know what you're doing to the back of the head, but be real careful.
I undid it, whatever it was. So we'll pull these guys in. Now we can do this by hand. And really, we can pull these guys in really far. And you'll notice there's nothing coming out. And really, the reason for that is because on our symmetry modifier, we not only have weld seam, but we got slice along the mirror.
Very
and what
nice.
that's doing, that's cutting off all the excess geometry. I just wanted to point that out to everybody. But we really don't need him to be hanging way out there in the middle of nowhere. So let's just go ahead and we'll right-click on the spinner and zero him out.
Excellent.
And we'll do it again. That is so convenient. All right, and that pretty much gives us a nice completed seam here. Now, it's a little bit sharp. That's okay, though. We've already got a little bit of detail that we can use to fix that. For a second, though, let me turn off NURM subdivision. And let me start grabbing some of these vertices, and we'll take this, because really what we have here is kind of squarish looking. Let me go ahead and round it out a little bit.
Be careful, because you were already in that mode, so you just jumped out of it.
I'm with you.
There you go.
We'll go ahead and just grab both these guys at the same time. Pull them back a little bit. That should round out the back of the neck nicely. Actually, what we'll try to do is we'll grab both of these guys, and we'll pull them forward and down, and that should round it out from there as well. From a front view, let's go ahead and turn we'll turn NURM subdivision back on. Actually, the thickness for the thing is pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty right on, yeah.
We can go in from this side and just kind of double check everything.
Well, one thing let me point out so that you don't run yourself ragged on this.
Absolutely.
This really gets to the point where we're not going to be continuing on with the geometry at this point into the chest area. If you did one more very slight extrusion out from the bottom, and what that'll do is just kind of bring it all more towards
absolutely.
A solid point down there.
Let's go ahead and grab all these guys, and we'll use our extrude tool and just pull
go.
that out.
Yeah, just like that's good.
Actually, what I was going to do is just delete those faces on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Because, actually, let me just go ahead and do that and show you what the deal is. Because really, if we're building this guy to attach to a body, we're not going to want these faces in here anyway. So if we go ahead and kill him and kill the isolated vertices, it's already opened up for us.
Yeah, then it's just a matter of going in there and moving these guys.
Just make it, like, this lesson is about tweaking. We're just make a few tweaks. Line these up, kind of get rid of these harsh edges, these harsh points at the seams, and really, that's looking pretty good.
All right, so go ahead and, if you could, do two things for me. Let's go ahead and turn the iterations up one more now.
Okay. Let me go ahead and get out of this sub-object mode so we can see the whole thing. Let me hit X. We'll turn off our gizmo, get it out of the way, and we'll crank iterations up to 3. Very nice.
Okay. Now we have a little bit of a seam going on in the front of the head. This is really good to point out now at this point.
Absolutely.
You look up near the top. And at this point, let's see, not a major fan about that. But what this does is it gets into, again, it's just a little bit more tweaking, and it also gets into a little bit of the weighting issue where we actually, by adjusting that weight, what we do is we start borrowing from some of the influence from other vertices in the low res to the high res, and we start pulling the mesh to or pushing it away from the actual vertex that we're working with the weight on at the moment. But in this particular case, if you want to go ahead and turn the iterations back down to 2, which you did.
I already did.
All right, so, I mean, that does the trick for me for what I was looking for in this thing right here. All right, so that's gonna pretty much wrap up our tweaking, cleanup, and next section.
All right.
All right, so thanks.